Hey, Lockhart. It's good to see y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Are you ready to take back Texas? Are you ready to beat Ken Paxton? Lockhart, it is so good to see you. Thank you, Chairwoman, for those kind words. Thank you for your service and your leadership in this community. Thank you to the volunteers in the vests who made this event possible. And thank you to all of you for showing up here on short notice. It is good to see you in Lockhart, Texas. We are building a movement to take back our state and to take back our country. We are uniting Texans onto one team to take on this broken, corrupt political system. We have traveled to every corner of this state, from Beaumont to El Paso, from Amarillo to Brownsville, and everywhere in between, big cities, small towns, red areas and blue areas alike. We've had thousands of Texans showing up to rally with us. And I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me at the end of these events and whisper some version of, "I'm not a Democrat," like they're in the witness protection program. I can't tell you the number of young people who've been showing up saying it's the first political event they've ever attended. That is how we change the politics of this state. We have recruited more than 59,000 volunteers who are doing the organizing work all over this state to win in November. And we have shattered grassroots fundraising records, all without taking a dime from corporate PACs. This is a people-powered campaign. And on November 3rd, we are going to do something extraordinary. We are going to end 30 years of one-party rule in this state and elect a senator who's going to serve us, not billionaire mega donors. We have forgotten that that's what politics is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about service. Elected officials aren't supposed to serve themselves or their mega donors. They're supposed to serve us. I first learned the meaning of service from my great-grandfather, my papi. He was a barber in Port O'Connor, Texas, on the Gulf Coast. And he served this country in World War II in the Pacific Theater. Papi was a member of the greatest generation, a group of Americans who asked not what their country could do for them, but what they could do for their country. And whether he was cutting his neighbor's hair or fighting fascism on the other side of the world, Papi was always serving other people. He was a faithful man. That's the best word I can think of to describe him. He was a devout Christian who tried to actually live like Jesus, who, in the words of Scripture, came not to be served, but to serve. And that's how Papi lived his life. His favorite Bible story was in the book of Matthew, when Jesus' disciples are all jockeying for position. They're trying to figure out who's top dog. They're trying to figure out the pecking order. And Jesus stops them and says, "The rulers of this world lord their power over the people, but among you it will be different. The greatest among you will be a servant." The greatest among you will be a servant. That's a countercultural idea. In a world that's obsessed with power and wealth, Jesus is saying that real greatness is serving others. My papi inspired me to serve. And so when I graduated from the University of Texas, I moved all my stuff. Hook 'em horns. You can say hook 'em horns. I moved all my dad's an Aggie, to all the Aggies in the room. His greatest disappointment was that he raised a Longhorn. So when I graduated from UT Austin, I moved all my stuff down to the west side of San Antonio to teach middle school in one of the poorest zip codes in our state. And in my first year of teaching, I noticed something really strange. All of my students were eating the exact same snack, off-brand strawberry Pop-Tarts. And I I couldn't figure out if there was some kind of Pop-Tart craze sweeping the nation, but I kept finding these wrappers in the trash can in my classroom. So after class one day, I asked one of the kids, "Where'd you get the Pop-Tart?" And he said, "Miss Rivas gave it to me." I said, "Miss Rivas, the custodian?" He said, "Yeah, she carries them in her purse." So after school, I found Miss Rivas, and I asked her about it. She said she bought them in bulk every weekend and then brought them to school every morning. When I asked her why on earth she would spend her hard-earned money on off-brand strawberry Pop-Tarts, she looked at me kind of confused and said, "They don't get breakfast at home." That was all she said. They don't get breakfast at home. Someone was in need, and that's all Miss Rivas needed to know. The greatest among you will be a servant. Over 4 terms in the State House, I've tried to live and lead like Miss Rivas, like my poppy. I have tried to serve my constituents. I've tried to serve the people of Texas. I've brought Democrats and Republicans together to take on this broken, corrupt system. I've passed 60 bipartisan bills through the Texas legislature. Bills that cut property taxes, bills that raise teacher pay, bills that lower the cost of housing, the cost of childcare, the cost of prescription drugs, including insulin. I ran for office not to be served, but to serve. And then there's Ken Paxton. I have a legislative record. Ken Paxton has a criminal record. That is the difference in this campaign. Ken Paxton is the most corrupt politician in America, and he should be nowhere near the United States Senate. 3 years ago, Ken Paxton was impeached by his own party, by his fellow Republicans, for using his public office, his position of public trust, to enrich himself and his donors at the expense of the people of Texas. Ken Paxton is everything that's wrong with this broken, corrupt system. He doesn't serve us, he serves himself. Since taking office, Ken Paxton has become a multimillionaire on a government salary. His net worth has increased 7,000%, all while the pay of most Texans has remained stagnant for years, for decades. You may have seen the recent report that Ken Paxton now owns 15 homes, while most Texans can't afford one. He's taken bribes from wealthy donors, all while he blocks overtime pay for Texas workers and guts our health care. This is the rot at the core of this broken system. It's why we can't afford anything. It's why we can't get ahead no matter how hard we work. For 50 years, billionaire mega donors have been buying politicians like Ken Paxton. And then those politicians turn around and rig the rules of the economy in favor of those billionaires at our expense. They have been stealing from the American people with bribes, with bailouts, with billionaire tax breaks. They have been selling us a lie that the best way to motivate the people at the top is to give them more of our money. Trickle-down economics is not a theory, it is theft. They have been stealing the wealth that we all created. It's why everything sucks right now. It's why people are so angry. Because the American people aren't asking for a lot. A job we don't hate, a house big enough to raise a family in, and a little left over to go on vacation every once in a while. That is harder than it should be. Harder than it should be in America. We have an affordability crisis because we have a corruption crisis. We don't have a government of, by, and for the people. Things would be different if we did. We have a government of, by, and for the billionaires. The system is working exactly as it was intended to work. Everywhere I go across the state, people are drowning. Can't afford the basics. Groceries, gas, utilities, prescription drugs, the things that we need to survive. I mean, people tell me it's no matter how hard they work, no matter how much they save, those ends never seem to meet. There is something broken in this country. I was reading a story about an Amazon worker who died in one of Amazon's warehouses. And as he lay dying, management told the other workers, turn around, don't look, get back to work. Get back to work. That was a human being. That was a child of God. That was our sibling, sacrificed on the altar of corporate greed. There is something broken in America. This is not just a political battle. This is a spiritual battle between selfishness and service, between greed and greatness, real greatness. I think after decades of this corruption, we are on the cusp of returning to those old-fashioned values, the values of my great-grandfather, the values of the greatest generation, service, sacrifice, doing what's right even when no one is watching. Ken Paxton has been selling us out for years, for decades, and he's gotten away with it. They've all gotten away with it. But that ends this year, in this state, in this race. If we the people, if we can come together, not as Democrats or Republicans, but as Texans, to defeat the most corrupt politician in America, then we can come together to defeat this entire corrupt system. I've already said that the first bill I'm going to file as your U.S. Senator is a comprehensive anti-corruption agenda. Getting big money out of our politics by overturning Citizens United. Banning corporate PACs and super PACs so billionaires aren't making unlimited secret donations to political campaigns in this country. Banning members of Congress in both parties from trading stocks and enriching themselves while they're in public office. We also have to go after the kinds of corruption that don't involve money. We must finally pass term limits so people aren't making a career out of public service. We must finally overhaul the Supreme Court because we've seen corruption in the highest court in our land. And we must finally pass a national ban to end gerrymandering once and for all in every state in the union, red states and blue states alike. Once we transform this broken, corrupt system, we can start unrigging this economy. We can start raising our pay. We can start cutting our taxes. We can start lowering our costs. We can finally start to get ahead. We are getting screwed. Whether you're a little more conservative or a little more progressive, we're all getting screwed. None of us can afford groceries. None of us can afford gas. None of us can afford health care. The billionaire mega donors and corporate special interests that are buying the system, that are buying politicians like Ken Paxton, they don't care who you are. They don't care about your politics. They only care about their profits. They don't see us as Democrats and Republicans. They don't see red or blue. They see green. They see us as a group of people they can rip off. They see us as one opposing team. So we might as well start acting like one. It's time for us to come together across all these manufactured divisions so that we can take on the people at the very top who have been screwing us over for far too long. That's what we can do in this election. Those are the stakes. I am so honored to be in this fight with each and every one of you. I am so humbled to be a part of this movement that we are building together, a movement that can not just win this Senate seat, but that can transform American politics in the process. If we do the work that's ahead of us, and there's a lot of work, Lockhart, a lot of work, but if we do that work, I am confident, I feel it in my bones, that we are going to win this election on November 3rd. And we're going to elect a senator who will serve and not be served. And on November 3rd, the greatest among us will be the servants. Thank you for being here. God bless you, Lockhart. Let's go win this thing.